All right, let's get started. So good morning and welcome to General Finance for December 15th, 2025. Number one, attendance roll call. Go ahead, we will start over here.
Colonel Amos Key Jr.,
Terry Bomberry, Gail Bomberry,
Greg Fraser,
Hazel John.
Melba Thomas.
Good morning, Elena Venebri.
Kate Jameson. And online.
Dean Hill. Morning.
Okay, thank you. Number two, identification of media. I don't see any. And Amos, you wanted to say a few words?
yeah, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts. Council. As some of you might know, I have some Jewish friends, and yesterday they suffered a horror yesterday in Australia. I'm trying to gather my thoughts on that. Douglas ne kaya tano ne ungkoy nato hong open zade kunoha and Hong Kong. We all know that people are precious on this world. Kaya tano. And hearing that news yesterday, and it just goes to your heart, knowing that 14 people, innocent people, murdered on a beach in Australia. So, as a government, I think it begs us to send our condolences to that government in Australia from a First Nation in Canada. So, what I'd ask the chief and her staff to create a letter of condolence to signify that we stand beside the Jewish community around the world, and especially at this time in Australia. So that's what I would like our message to be. And I don't know whether we need a motion for that, but I think it's time that we exercise our sovereignty as a government and act like a government and stand up like a government against anti-Semitism and any hate against us as Jungwe as First Peoples, that we're not going to tolerate it. So we should send our condolences with those messages. And if anybody else wants to add their message, please do. There was a 10-year-old boy that was murdered and an 87-year-old survivor of the Holocaust. And I just think we should stand up against hate. Donita, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Amos. And for sure we can send a letter out and our condolences also to them and their families.
Thank you, Chief.
Let's go to number three, changes or deletions to the agenda. If not, can I have a mover? Moved by Dale, seconder. Second by Melba, all in favor. Let's go to number four, adoption of general finance minutes for December 1st, 2025. Moved by Cynthia, seconder. Second by Carrie, all in favor. Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to number five, there's no delegations. Let's go to number six. Recommendation of the bilateral initiative and engagement project. Is she? Yeah, go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, I was concerned that this, I guess it's from the Ontario Ministry of Education. That's who that is, right? And it's not a lot, but 100,000 a year. But it's disturbing that we were not able to spend, especially in education, 17,000. And I did read the briefing note. They said there were two reasons. One, we didn't get the funds till January 25. And second, the education advisor person wasn't hired until March, I think it said. But I'm baffled, but even with understanding that, so does that mean in spite of that coming January 25, the money, because this other person wasn't hired till March, we wouldn't have been able to spend the funds? That's why I thought part of we got, which I totally did not ever agree with. Remember with that Corn Ferry report, and we injected that whole tier of bureaucracy with all those people floating around. Generally, what happens if somebody is not like away on sick, or the position in this case isn't filled, those folks above are supposed to step in. I can only imagine off the even top of my head, it would easily have spent that 17,000 for education. So I mean, there's no choice, but it's got to be sent back. I see that it was, we got a letter, it was due back by December the 1st, but that's just unsatisfactory.
Good morning, Susie.
Hello, good morning.
So we're on the recommendation of 6.1, the bilateral initiative engagement project. And Councillor Jameson just had her concerns of why the $17,023.83 is going back.
So in there, I did put, we didn't receive the funds until January 2025, which is halfway through the 24-25 school year, which is the way that the funding is based for this. And the project lead, we weren't able to get somebody into that position despite continuously putting out a job posting for that role. And they weren't hired until March 2025 to begin the project initiatives. Now, our funding advisor was well aware of that prior to us even beginning this project, that we were later in this. And there was council members that were a part of that discussion as well.
Go ahead, Elena.
So what is in place so that this doesn't occur again with the rest of the funding that goes until 2027?
This won't happen again. It's a 3-year project. And we were in early discussions with the funding providers in the very beginning where, they kept pushing us for a work plan, etc. I didn't hop on to this project until the very last end where I was able to engage with the funding providers myself. And I actually went and did the work plan for them, but it was lack of oversight. And council members already had begun the discussion with these funders without somebody actually placed to oversee it. So we have somebody in the position of the education advisor role with a project budget in place to be able to expense the funds that we said we were in line with our project objectives.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Thank you for that. When you say there were counselors involved in this, what did they not notify somebody in admin about this, these funds? And normally in these cases, I read the brief that the funds didn't come in until January 25. The person wasn't hired till March. To me, that doesn't explain why this couldn't have been done, except that you're saying the counselors were involved. Did they not notify anybody in admin that this monies were forthcoming?
At the time, the acting CEO was the one who was overseeing this and basically tasked me with it later on.
Okay, so whereas Six Nations of the Grand River received 300,000 in funding from the Ministry of Education for the period of 2024 to 2027, $100,000 per year for 3 years. Whereas the Ministry of Education has completed its 1-year 2024 to 2025 financial review and identified $17,023.83 in unspent funds that must be returned by December 31st, 2025 via check to the Minister of Finance. Therefore, it be resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council authorize the return of unspent funds from 2024 to 2025 year to the Minister of Finance in the amount of $17,023.83. Is there a mover? Moved by Dale, seconder. Second by Hazel. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none. Carried. Recommendation 6.2. Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council approved to waive second reading. Moved by Dale, second by Hazel. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none. Carried. Let's go to recommendation 7. Recommendation from Parks and Recreation Department. Recommendation 7.1, funding reallocation and deficit for sports facility improvement project. Go ahead.
The Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council previously approved multi-parks and recreation capital projects, including the Blue Running Racetrack, the Ball Diamond number 1, Ball Diamond number 3, and the walking path project. Out of that walking path project amount, we allocated 184,602.70 towards the roof replacement project to offset some of those costs with our roof over at Parks and Recreation. 9,250 of that amount was approved to use for the drone survey to be able to fully understand our grounds and our layout in order to move forward with some of these projects. And 106,147.30 is remaining out of that walking path project. Now with that, and then of course we had the Ball Diamond number 3 additional funds, 4276. So ultimately, following a competitive procurement process, the updated construction prices are higher than the current approved projects that we were approved for. And so this means that we need to adjust project funding and cover the remaining deficit so that the work can move forward in the spring of 2026. Now, the walking path project will not proceed at this time, leaving a balance of 106,147.30. And the reason for that being is it's not a priority in comparison to our Ball Diamond fields as well as the running racetrack. And so this amount 106,147.30 to be able to cover the Blue Running Racetrack project will help reduce the overall shortfall, but it ultimately doesn't cover fully the costs that have come before us. And so ultimately, this briefing note is needed to make sure the full project is funded before Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council considers awarding the construction and design project in briefing note number 2, which we will go over. So the competitive bid has confirmed final project costing. So Parks and Recreation now requires the 59th elected council authorization to reallocate the 106,147.30 from the walking path project to the Blue Running Racetrack project and improve the deficit funding source for the remaining 725,976.88, which includes the 5% contingency in line with our procurement policies. And so the costs that have come before us, the Blue Running Racetrack is estimated at 940,898.75. Ball Diamond number 1, 194,270. Ball Diamond number 3, 198,853. Bonding and insurance, 25,400. Design and engineering costs, 152,750. And then construction, general conditions, safety, and certain environmental controls, 148,898.90 for a total of 1.661,070.65 with a contingency amount of 83,053.53 cents. So the total amount of the project with the contingency is 1,744,124.18. And reallocation of this 106,147.30 will partially offset the cost pressures, but is obviously insufficient to cover the full amount. So we're recommending drawing the remaining required funds from 23006-7300 BASP, which we have had conversations with the CFO in regards to that funding being available to cover these additional costs.
Go ahead, Elena.
What is the I may not have been here to see this because I don't recall it, but what is the work that's going to happen to the blue running track?
So we did release an RFP back in the beginning of September, and it was posted for a full month until the end of September with an additional week extension to allow more people to put together a wholesome proposal before us. And so with that, the RFP outlined the scope of work with the resurface of the blue running racetrack within it. So the racetrack is to remove and dispose of the existing worn rubberized surface off-site, carefully peel up the existing surface layer, inspect and level the base, and verify the elevations and slope match the existing grade to ensure proper drainage, which is what we're having complications and challenges with now. The track should follow the site's natural slope. Inspect and repair the sub-base as necessary after removal of the surface layer to provide a stable foundation for the new installation to ensure that there's no issues in the future moving forward, and install a new weather-resistant track surface suitable for secondary school level athletic use in accordance with the World Athletics, formerly IAAF standards, which is what our current existing track is. This is a like-for-like replacement of the existing track. The track is 400 meters in length and has 6 lanes. Construction for the existing running track started in 2011 and was completed in 2012, so it is substantially older. And the current drainage system around the track is ACO Sport System 3000 installed along both the inside and outside of the track lanes. And that's something that's going to have to also be further inspected to ensure proper drainage of the track.
Follow up, Elena? No? Go ahead, Cynthia.
This total project, am I reading it correctly? The total project then is 1.7 million, is that correct?
Correct.
And the deficit or the projected deficit is 725,000, to which it was reduced because we're reallocating the 106. So would it be reduced from the 830 whatever? No?
No, it's not reduced. That's just going to move over to the the blue track project.
I know, but because it's moved into the blue track, 106, we have a deficit of 725. If it were not moved over, would not the deficit be like 831 or something?
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yes. Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So like that's sometimes projects come in over, obviously a lot, but this is like almost like 50%. What was the explanation given by this contractor? That's a huge jump.
It's not just this contractor. We received other RFPs with the same ballpark amounts. We underestimated in our budget the costs. Also inflation.
Was that due to like what was that due to? I'm just thinking, is that to remember the all those tariffs in the US? Are goods coming from the US? Is that
Yes.
and
So
that?
our team had earlier discussions about what the project costs would be. And ultimately we under budgeted the amount. I have Cheryl here with me. Cheryl, speak to some of that.
So last year, when the council asked us for, I should say finance, asked us for projects, what needs to be done at Parks and Rec? What kinds of minor capital or capital costs need to be done? So it was done and just like off the top of my head, saying, okay, this is how much it would cost us to get this done, and this done. So it was under the pressure of time sensitivity. I didn't have the backup. So when those numbers were presented to council, actually, I didn't expect it to even get approved. Didn't expect money to come from Development Corporation for these projects. And so then when we did finally tender it this year, we did get proper pricing from an engineer to do these projects. So that's why there's such a significant difference. Follow up?
So the source of funds, it says from this 23,006,73,00 BASP. What is that?
Those are the before and after school funds to be able to support our schools.
Is that any of that 17,000 or what is that other one we're sending back? That 17,000?
That's a separate project.
Does that one directly go to the students to help them somehow? The one we're sending
The
back?
17,000, no,
No?
that's a separate project.
Okay.
Elena,
No, source of funds was my question.
go ahead, Dale.
So mostly you're just reallocating funds that's already been identified previously. So I'll move on motion based on the reallocation. I know there's a lot of questions and I know project costs sometimes change and Cheryl had said she had some unknowns there, so. But our DOF has identified funds, so I'll move on the motion.
Moved by Dale, seconder. Second by Hazel. Question? Go ahead, Elena.
So seeing as it's winter now and these are outdoor projects, when are these expected to start and complete?
Yeah, so that kind of gets into briefing note number 2, the awarding of the project. So the project initiative is actually set to start in the spring of April. We do have the project schedule and timeline that was submitted with the RFP, very comprehensive package proposal that was submitted. But with that, there's still some early stage planning that need to happen. Obviously, they need to come out. They've already come out and done an assessment, but we need to give them the full scope of the drone survey, which we didn't release until they fully get the award of the project. But there's some things that we have to start to begin early January into February and March to then begin the planning for the April, but it's set to start in April.
So how long, the running track opens May? Oh, so it obviously won't be open in May, and how long will it be closed for?
Yeah, until about middle of June, April to June. So again, this is just an estimated time frame, but this is in line with the project schedule that they had submitted. Communications will go out to community in regards to the project and timelines to keep everybody informed and updated. And we'll be sure to update the community committee as well as information begins to progress when we begin to start the project and the scope.
Go ahead, Hazel.
Crazy, but just want to ask, that money that has to go back, because it is like classified as education dollars, right? Is there any way that if you correspond it with a funder and told them the circumstances, because that running track is also an educational playground for our kids, is there any way that they would consider allowing you to keep that and put it on that track?
Yeah, it's a good question. And unfortunately, the way that funding agreements are written is very specific to what it is outlined within those agreements. And so essentially that $17,000 that is going back is towards the relationship building between Six Nations of the Grand River and the education minister. And so I see where your thought process is going, Hazel, with that. But unfortunately, it's very strict as it pertains to those guidelines that are written in the agreement.
They must really enforce those and
Okay, moved by Dale, second by Hazel. Be it resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council approve reallocating $106,147.30 from the walking path project to the blue running and racetrack project. Therefore, be it further resolved that the remaining project deficit of $725,976.88 be funded from 23006-7300-BASP. It's been moved. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Amos, are you opposed? One opposed? Reason?
This might be a topic for our new finance committee. I think there's got to be a better way to track the spending throughout the fiscal year so that we can advise staff hey, we might have to send some money back. Instead of waiting till the 11th hour and saying, hey, it's January now, we're gonna have to send some money back. So there must be a better process or schedule that we could develop so that we can monitor and track this spending overall. I don't know, Jennifer, if that's a good idea or not, but I mean, it would help us. Anyway, that's my comment for now.
Thank you, Counselor, for your feedback. This particular item that Parks and Recreation has brought up is to prevent funds from going back. That's what the purpose of this is right, reallocating funds that are at risk towards projects that we're using that we know that we can use. So this is separate from that $17,000 that's going back, just as a clarification.
Okay,
Thank you, Jennifer.
it's carried. Let's go to recommendation 7.2, approval to award the sports facility improvement project to Gateman Malloy Inc. and Landscape Planning Limited. Go ahead.
Okay, just a high level summary of the briefing note that is before you here. So we did go ahead and complete a competitive procurement process. Following the call for proposals, Parks and Recreation leadership, together with the director of Built Environment, reviewed and evaluated all the submissions that we had received before us. Gateman Malloy was identified as the preferred design build contractor in line with the request for proposal. Submitting a full and compliant package that met and exceeded all the mandatory technical, financial, and scheduling requirements. Landscape Planning Limited has also been identified as a qualified design and engineering consultant, which was identified in the proposal submitted by Gateman Malloy. They would be responsible for the design, engineering, and technical oversight. Together, they have a well-established track record working together as a team on previous led projects, which are quite extensive and is all within that proposal. I'm not sure if you have it before you, but it's about 100 pages long. So ultimately, we're looking for the 59th elected council approval to award the sports facility improvement project to Gateman Malloy as the design build general contractor and have the landscaping planning limited as the design and engineering consultant for the project scope as identified in the procurement process.
Okay. Whereas Six Nations of the Grand River Parks and Recreation Department issued a call for proposals for the sports facility improvement project in accordance with the Six Nations of the Grand River procurement policy. Whereas Gateman Malloy Inc. has been identified as the preferred design built general contractor and Landscape Planning Limited as the preferred design and engineering consultant. Whereas Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council approval is required to authorize consolidated project delivery exceeding 300,000. Therefore, it be resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council approve awarding the sports facility improvement project to Gateman Malloy Inc. as the design built general contractor for $1,660,070.65 plus a 5% contingency and so that one $83,053.53 for a total project of $1,744,124.18. Be it further resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River 59th elected council approve retaining Landscape Planning Limited as a design and engineering consultant for the project scope as identified in the procurement process. And may it further resolve that the chief operating officer and the financial officer be granted full authority to execute all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to deliver the project, including but not limited to construction agreements, design, engineering agreements, and financial instruments within the approved project budget. Is there a mover? Moved by Dale with comment.
So my comment just is the fact that Gateman, their contract's 1.6. or the 1.7. So is the design and engineering being retained for within Gateman's contract?
Yes, it's all in one, that all cost is captured within that budget amount.
So I guess my question is, wouldn't Gateman be responsible for that, taking care of that, or is it? Because we're almost proving something separate here. Why wouldn't Gateman would have, if we approve these overall projects? And within that project is the design and construction of. Yeah, you would think Gateman would have that as one of his subs. I just wonder why we're doing it separate, that's all. And not, by saying that, then I don't know what the contract amounts will be coming in as. So do you take that 150, take that 152 from the 1.7 for Gateman and then the other one for the landscape planning? That's all, I'm just process wise, so I don't know, maybe as long as Jennifer is clear on which relation or if it's for Deborah when they sign contract, what they're signing for, that's all, just as long as that's clear.
Yeah, I think the way that I worded the briefing note is to just be transparent with council about all contractors that are involved with the project work. So it would be Gateman and Landscape Planning Inc. But I think the agreement will flush all that out. That's a good point, Dale.
So it's been moved by Dale, seconder. Second by Greg. Any other comments, questions? Go ahead, Amos.
Yeah, since I joined council, and I think Jennifer knows this, and the council does that, I've been always asking us to identify the source of funding. And if you want to call it the Amos requirement, go right ahead. I'd like to know where this funding is being sourced. Out of the lot, can we put it in this motion as well?
Last time you guys had me do it separate. This is why I did the two briefing notes separate from the money and the actual contract.
I mean, identified in the resolution as well.
I mean, it'd be fine.
So we had the funded from the dash.
Thank you.
Add that at the bottom. He's got that. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed? See none. Recommendation 7.3. Filling our fire event, community hall, December.
So again, just going through the briefing note here that is before you. So a fee waiver request form has been submitted to Parks and Recreation to allow the Rekindling Our Fire community gathering to take place at the community hall on December 24th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the council holiday closure. This event has historically served as a community wellness and suicide prevention gathering supported by volunteers. It is now a group that is essentially community run. It's community volunteers, so they're not actually they're a part of the Rekindling Our Fire group, but they run separate from an actual formalized organization. Thanks, Cheryl. The request meets the facility fee waiver matrix criteria, but because the date falls on a council declared closure day, as per our policy that was recently passed, we do need council approval. So as per the facility fee waiver policy, the security deposit of $250 may also only be waived through formal council resolution. Opening the community hall during a council closure day requires facility staff to complete all service delivery duties that would otherwise occur before, during, and after a normal operating day. The 12 hours identified is a maximum window, just to ensure that we have adequate funds to be able to cover these staff that would be brought in to oversee this event taking place. So all staff scheduled would be paid at time and a half because of the declared closure day. So actual hours may be lower. However, this window accounts for facility preparation. If there is a snowstorm, shoveling, salting, walkways if required, unlocking and safety checks, room setup, including chairs, tables, and equipment. This also costs would go towards event coverage, supervising the facility during the full rental period, responding to safety issues, and ensuring compliance with our facility guidelines. And then, of course, post-event shutdown, so cleaning up, locking up, and ensuring the building is returned to its operational condition. So that way it's in a good spot for us come January 5th when we return back to office. Parks and Recreation has completed the fee waiver costing review sheet. Collaboration occurred with facility operations staff to confirm staff scheduling requirements, our operational needs, and some of our safety considerations. So ultimately, the rental fees, the community hall, which is being requested to rent, the main hall, kitchen, and the sports den from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. plus the 1 free hour. Cleanup is $910. The security deposit is $250. The staffing costs that are required at time and a half for the council closure day, based on 2 full-time and 2 part-time staff to be able to assist this event. Full-time wage for our maintenance is $24.18. At time and a half is $36.27 per hour. Part-time wage is $23.08 per hour. At time and a half is $34.62. For an estimated maximum of 12 hours of setup, event coverage, and cleanup and weather-related duties. Total estimated staffing cost is $1,701.36. Actual cost may be lower depending on our operational needs. We did not include benefits within this amount that we're requesting to put before the $40,000 waiver limit. Operational costs we estimated at about $100 each. Hydro, heat, water, custodial supplies, so things such as paper towels, garbage bags, floor cleaner, etc. Total potential waiver amount is $2,961.36. Again, this amount is something that would be applied to that annual $40,000 waiver limit.
Okay, is there a mover? Moved by Cynthia. Comment?
With a comment and question, maybe a couple questions. I move it because I do recall that that lady came and got funding to hold this event. So since we approved that, it would behoove us not to do this part. But my question was, and I do recall when they were reviewing that facility waiver fee, it came back and forth a few times and there was a matrix. And I thought, Cheryl, I could be wrong, but I thought in those discussions, it was recognized every time when someone meets the requirement to have the fee waived, it's a cost to recreation. I do recall we had that discussion and recognition, but likewise, I thought, could be very wrong, that because of that, there was a projection and that would be added to your budget, that the cost of waiving the fee, no?
No, this is all part of the $40,000 that was decided by the council back in 2023, where we would have, well, actually it was done in 2014. So originally 2014. So we're just carrying that forward and saying that's going to cover all requests for free rental of the community hall or any of the facilities that are happening at Parks and Rec. So yes, there would be a cost to Parks and Rec, but it's going to be covered off by that $40,000. Yeah.
Auxiliary costs then, the actual rental. Okay, so I did remember something correctly, but these auxiliary costs. So yeah, I've moved on.
Moved by Cynthia, second by Dale. All in favor? Oh, question? Go ahead, Elena.
I'm just wondering if in the motion we can add, just for clarity and for the event coordinator's information, it does say that it's recommended to the community committee at its scheduled meeting February 11th that a report summarizing attendance, activities, and outcomes and recommendations be put forward. So what is the date for having that into admin? There's a deadline before then for them to have that in.
Usually it would be the week before. Yeah.
We will follow up with, once approved, so as per the policy, we'll follow up with the individual and advise that this motion has been passed, and then just outline what the requirements are, and we'll provide the dates for when they need to submit their request.
Yeah, just for clarity, so they know.
Yep, go ahead, Dale. Not yet. Okay, so moved by Cynthia, second by Dale. Any other comments? If not, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Go ahead, Dale.
Just a comment, Claire, and I don't know, maybe Deb, I guess, because when they work on a statutory holiday, it's actually 2.5 times, right? Your regular pay plus the time and a half. You can check the employment policy.
But it's just that, you know, they would be paid that for the holiday, and whether they're there or not. So then we are paying them extra by reporting to work. Yeah.
So recommendation 7.4, Six Nations of the Grand River 59 elected council approved to waive second reading on recommendation 7.1 to 7.3. Is there a mover? Moved by Dale, second by Cynthia. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Okay, thank you for coming in. Let's go to number 8, recommendation from tourism. So we're just going to bring in Jackie Jameson. Good morning, Jackie.
Good morning.
So we're on number 8.1, your recommendation.
Got lots of papers here this morning. Okay, so 8.1 is the NACA grant. So with the building project, we had put into NACA, oh, I think it was like March, and we were denied that grant. And then they had a second round of funding, so they put our application back in, we fixed up some things, and then they approved us for $800,000. So that is approved for the building project. We just need a band council resolution to accept that and go towards the building. This grant is due at the end of March, so March 31st, 2026. But the nice part about this grant is because we applied the first time, we're able to backdate some of the payments. So we can put some of those big building purchases under there, and it'll make it easy to rectify that. It's just a lot of paperwork that we got to do in the new year.
So again, NACA is National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association.
Yes, and they had a tourism funding grant for infrastructure.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead, Greg and Cynthia.
Yeah, thank you, Jackie, for that. Wasn't the original request 1 million? Was that not? And then there were other applicants that did receive more than the 800,000.
Yeah, so Spring isn't here with me today. She worked on a lot of this project, but I guess it was whatever we had put in with revenue and everything, why they came to that 800,000. So there was different determining factors.
Cynthia?
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. I do believe you explained in our committee, at least I thought you did, that council has already provided funding for
Yes.
this because of the lateness of the year, and as you had explained, and there was no budget, what have you, that it was all delayed. So are we retrieving some of this? Or are we getting some back? Remember from the monies granted by council for this because of your explain about the delay and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean the 1 million would really just cover the 1 million that was previously given would cover the building. So there's still additional money that we needed that I was going to source in the new year once the building is up. We still need furniture, we still need the kitchen equipment. Again, that was another grant that got slipped through administration. So there's still needs for the building, displays, all that stuff, which I was going to phase it out. So really it's up to the decision made here today. But there's still needs for that building for sure. So if it's not this 800,000, then we're continuing to look for more grants.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you. So,
Counselor, one of the things that we would look at is we would look at the project and then look at the funding, look at the needs of tourism and then come back with a recommendation for either rescinding the initial allocation and reallocating it potentially towards the initiatives that Jackie's speaking of, or that type of thing. But at this point, we're trying to put the steps in place to be able to give us a determination for what we come back to council with.
Yep, go ahead, Cynthia.
So-
Can you use your mic?
Yes, it didn't engage. That other was for 800,000. This is an additional 120. So is that a total of 920 then?
There's two grants on the table, so we're looking at the 800,000 right now.
I know, but there's another one for 120. So that combined would be a total of 920.
Well, the second grant is 120,000 over 3 years. So it's a little bit different. No, and that's for marketing specifically.
Elena?
I'm just wondering, this is not a current, you have here a tourism welcome center projected financing, so it's got your original bid amounts and then actuals, so it looks like those have been updated sort of, but there's a lot of things that are not updated. Do you have an updated one? Right now, that's as updated as we have. We're moving through it. It's getting the roof on hopefully this week. So we're kind of trying to move through everything. It's been a lot of paperwork, but we're doing what we can. Yeah, and then there's things like that I was going to push to next year. This focus for this fiscal was really just to get the building up. I was phasing it out because it is a big spend. So next year the focus was on getting the furniture that we needed, display cases, things like that. So like Jennifer said, it's a lot of moving pieces, and with these grants, we got to make sure they're in by the end of March and that building's completed by the end of March. Yeah, my question is sort of looking at this construction labor. So it's been increased by about $20,000 or exactly $20,000, but beside it, it says projected, not contracted to date, but it is contracted. Yeah. 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 So this is really not updated. I wouldn't say it's really not updated, but. Well, construction started, right? Yeah, it started. Yeah, so this needs to be updated. Yeah, and then I know there was additional cost too because of the time period, so it took us so long to get it pushed through council that they had to hire additional labor to try and hit that March 31st deadline.
Amos?
Yeah, I was just wondering, does it have a cultural component? Is tourism culture? I just a question I'm asking, and because there's a fund through Cultural Spaces Canada as well that you might want to look for operationally down the
Yeah.
road. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's culture. Like the whole point of this new welcome center. So when people come to the park and people come to Six Nations, there's a space where they can learn just the basics. We already know our culture is so diverse and like so rich. You can't learn it all in one day. You can't even learn it all in one visit, right? So this is really just to cover the basics of like who we are as a people, as Haudenosaunee, the Haldeman Tract, creation story. Like it's going to be very basic because of the limited space, and we don't want to take away from woodland. We really want people to see woodland as well. So it's figuring out what we can put in that space that will showcase our people, but also not take away from the other sites as well.
You can probably talk to Heather George. She knows lots about the Cultural Spaces Fund.
Yeah, I'm going to see her on Thursday.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, because it's for the new coming year, coming off your 2 awards that you've won, or the finalists in terms of the Canadian Tourism Awards. I think that's should be exploited coming this fall. As you know, we've spoken with Minister Minister Cho. He's excited about this building because he opens doors to he's a minister of culture and tourism. So, and he knows that there's other opportunities for funding as well. So they're really excited. We did have a chance to speak with Mr. Ames out of the Niagara Falls, the CEO of Niagara Parks. As you know, they're putting in a 72 million, 200 million and refurbishing all of Niagara Parks. And he's excited actually to come visit as well to see how he can actually help promote our culture and tourism. And we have to be a destination, or in terms of providing a cultural experience, although a 1 day experience is, that's a little tight. But working with Heather and also Guyana Say with Aaron, I think it can be a pretty good package. And my little concern is will you have the staff and resources if you did get a large influx of visitors? I think what you may, you're going to have to also have a look at upping, I think, the staff requirements, and also maybe asking some of our community members to help, our elders to help in terms of the culture aspect, the language part of it, and again, helping out with the schools and the school system. So I think it's looking positive, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, there is a 10-year strategic plan that we did last year as well. So it lays out some of the staff members that we're going to need and infrastructure and things like that. All the sites like Woodland, Heather did have input into that 10-year strategic plan. We reached out to people from Guyana Say, so it really was like looking at everything we have in Six Nations and trying to package it together. I was actually at Queen's Park last week advocating for Indigenous tourism with Tourism Ontario. And one of the key pillars on Tourism Ontario is the workforce. We're seeing a need in workforce. Some other communities are dealing with the foreign workers. Of course, that's not really our case because we want to hire within community. But that's definitely one of the pillars, is building up that workforce. And the other issue that we're having in tourism right now is that a lot of the colleges have completely let go their tourism programs. So not a lot of people are going through school to be working in tourism. So that's another problem that we're dealing with. But again, it's trying to come up with that training. And I find with our site specifically with Six Nations, a lot of training is done on the ground because that's where you learn best. So there's some forces we have against us, but we're trying to work through them as well.
Follow up? Yeah, thanks, Jackie. Because if you look at the overall picture, our tourism and tourism operation is really working under a shoestring budget. If you compare to Kahnawake, and Kahnawake is just building a new cultural center, tourism center for $52 million. As you know, there's a $60 million project going up at the Mohawk Institute as they're trying to do fundraising for that. So all of these resources that we have to put in place, okay, do add up. Again, Niagara Falls putting in $200 million into their projects. It's really, I commend you on being able to work within, such a restricted number of dollars that you have to work with. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cynthia?
When it was a year ago, whatever it was, we got a lot of material, like the briefing notes. And then there was also a copy of, I know some folks have been concerned because of the historical site, Pauline Johnson, and wouldn't that have compromised its designation, having that tourism building built there? But I dug that up again and read it, the document, which of course describes the building, et cetera, but part of it did note the plan, which is happening now, is for exactly that tourism center. But the part as it relates to Pauline Johnson itself noted there were a number of artifacts that could not be stored at the Pauline Johnson site, and they have in the interim been stored at the Oneida Business Park. So what are, or how many of these things, or what exactly is down there? And they'll be brought to this new building.
Yeah.
And do they require climate control?
Yeah, yes, they do require climate control. So that was paperwork that was missed. I don't even know what year, but I think it was between a previous council and Woodland. So Woodland was able to not hold on to the collection anymore. So it was right before COVID that we went and got that collection out of Woodland. And then unfortunately it had to sit because we were all sent home and we couldn't be in person. It's moved a few times within Oneida Business Park. It is not in an ideal location. It's off a men's washroom with several women working here. So it's interesting. And it did experience a flood. Nothing was permanently damaged, but it's not in the proper space to be taken care of right now. And we haven't been able to fix that. The building will be able to fix that. We do have a dedicated space for that. And then the front portion in the basement is going to be climate controlled so we can place it there. It is a lot of work to move it. A lot of it is paperwork, paintings. There is some clothing material, but those don't really stay good for that long. It's a lot of paper and books and things like that. And part of it is in the house. So as much as we could put in the house and the delicate things we put into the house. So we have one room blocked off in the house for that, but it is not an ideal situation and it hasn't been for 5 years. And hopefully with this building going up, we can rectify that as well.
Follow up. Oh, I'm curious. In this paperwork, are there any original in Pauline's handwriting, the song My Paddle Sings?
I don't know about that one, but there's definitely journals and different things like that too. So, if anybody wants to come help us move it when the new building opens up, I'll take help.
Okay, therefore be resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council approve to accept the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association Sites Grant in the amount of 800,000 on behalf of Six Nations Tourism Department. Therefore, be it further resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council authorize the Chief Financial Officer sign on behalf of Six Nations of the Grand River. Is there a mover? Moved by Amos, second by Elena. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to recommendation 8.2 to waive second reading. Moved by Amos, second by Elena. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Okay, let's go to recommendation from Lands and Resource, Wealth and Economy Committee. It was moved by Amos and second by Helen. But if we can have another mover, moved by Elena. And I think this is the 120,000 that you're talking about earlier, Cynthia. Go ahead.
So this is the Ontario Cultural Attractions Fund. They came to us with this grant. It's a pilot grant. So it's $120,000 over 3 years. And there is a repayable portion of 36,000 that is due at the end of the 3 years. So 2028, 2029 fiscal. And this was for marketing. Part of it is to market the fact that we have a new building, market some of our events. And when I say events, it doesn't always just include what tourism is doing. It of course includes the other sites, things that are going on within Six Nations. So I think this would be great. Our marketing budget isn't up to par. And if we want to continue to grow, we definitely need to up that marketing budget. So this would just be a way to help us. And yeah, Springs worked on this one as well. So she's got the nitty gritty. Actually, I probably do got the details, but if anybody has any questions, that's the roundabout.
Questions? Go ahead, Amos.
I think the last conversation we had that I might have suggested we just suck away that requirement, put it in the bank and try to earn some money on that 36,000. Because you're going to have to send it back anyway, right? As our contribution to it. That's what we did with Two Rivers at the radio station. They gave us $100,000 and they wanted 20,000 back at the end. So we just socked away the 20,000 and made some money on it. And then when it came due, we just sent it back. Really easy.
Okay, therefore it be resolved. The Lands and Resource, Wealth and Economy Committee recommends that Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council approves to accept the OCAF market grant in the amount of $120,000 on behalf of Six Nations Tourism Department, recognizing the repayable portion of 36,000 is due within 60 days following the end of the project on December 31st, 2028. Therefore, it be further resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council authorize the Chief Financial Officer sign on behalf of Six Nations of the Grand River. So it was moved by Amos, second by Elena. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to recommendation 2 to waive second reading. Moved by Amos, second by Elena. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Go ahead, Jackie.
That's it. All I had.
Dad. Okay,
Perfect. Thank
All right.
you.
thank you. All right, let's go to number 10. Recommendation from Community Committee. It was moved by Dale and seconded by Carrie.
Derek Hill informed us that the briefing note for this item isn't actually finished. So I think that we should just move this one to January 5th as well in the new year.
Okay. Yeah, 10-1. Go ahead, Amos.
Is this time sensitive though, for before the beginning of the new year? Yeah.
Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, I know when we discussed it at the committee, I know there was a number of questions in regards to the situation in relation to this work, because they want to get started on the work, and it has to deal with the increased water main size that needs to get started to allow more work to continue at social services. And I know we had some questions at the thing, and I know one of the questions was, I guess it's an additional project that Public Works was taken care of, and just through design and construction, other issues that got delayed, which is why this delay is happening. But they do need to move on it in relation to get this thing started and progressed. And I don't think that there was nothing really technical in Derek's briefing, no, just more of an explanation of some of the delays that was happening, that's all. But when they originally put water main down Sunrise, it was too small because the expansion that we have now wasn't there. So that's why they want to increase it, which is the work Public Works is doing. So I would recommend that we do move on.
So our only risk is that we don't have a briefing note. That's it.
Go ahead, Hazel.
Yeah, we talked about this in our recall meeting, and I'm just wondering, rather than wait, like, couldn't just go through the process today so they can get started?
Go ahead, Shirley. Shirley has her hand up.
Yeah, I would suggest that if we can follow up with Derek, and maybe if you don't mind, we can move it to the in camera once we get the briefing note, and then if everything looks okay, then you can release it back out of camera. But I know he didn't have a lot of time to work on it because I think the BCom committee meeting was on Thursday, so he would have only had the Friday. So if you want, I can reach out to him, see if he's going to have it done before the end of the meeting, and then we can add it to the in camera, if that's okay with everyone. Just a suggestion.
Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, I know we had some questions in regards to the overall project amount, because I know it was originally approved in the 58. So just some clarification in numbers. And once we got all that, everything was there, the numbers are there, and this even this change order is within the contingency amount. So it's still under budget to date in relation to the overall approval that was given in the 58. So that's why we recommended that it move ahead.
So does council want to wait for the BN, or are we ready to move on it? The other councilors.
We'll move on it.
Anybody else? Yep, go ahead, Cynthia. Yeah. I'm okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so it was moved by Dale, second by Hazel. Or second by Carrie, sorry. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to recommendation 10-2, social services. This was moved by Leslie and second by Melba, and Leslie's not here. She in? Yep, go ahead, Amos.
I have a deja vu. I thought I already seen this somewhere last week. This, that's already done. So,
Yeah.
thank God, no deja vu. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take 10-2 off. And it's completed. So I just need to waive second reading on 10-1. Moved by Dale, second by Amos. All in favor? Be opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to number 11. Is comprehensive funding agreement amendments number 182, 183, and 184. This is recommendation 11-1.
I'll move,
Good.
Chief. I'll move.
You'll move? Moved by Amos, second by Cynthia. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Amos, second by Cynthia. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. So I'll read it though.
You did all your work. You did all your
Oh,
work, Jen.
yeah, if you can read it.
Just for the records, I'll read the motion out. So, it's item number 11. For the Indigenous Services Canada Comprehensive Funding Agreement, amendments number 182, 183, and 184. And it reads, whereas Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council has entered into a 5-year comprehensive funding agreement with Indigenous Services Canada, and whereas comprehensive funding agreement amendments numbers 182, 183, and 184 have been received for council approval and signatures, therefore be it resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council approve and sign the following comprehensive funding agreement amendment numbers 182, 183, and 184 for fiscal year 2025-26 between His Majesty the King and Right of Canada, as represented by the Minister of Indigenous Services and Six Nations of the Grand River. Amendment includes additional funding for the following. Amendment number 182 is for high cost special education in a total amount of $249,500. This is split up by funding for educational assistance, $155,500, cultural programming of $40,000, assessments of $24,000, and therapy services of $30,000. Amendment number 183 is for the Housing Renovation Strategic Approach Year 2 for $440,000. And amendment number 184 is a change in reporting requirements for Schedule 7 First Nations Child and Family Services Activity Report, and there's no financial impact on that amendment.
Thank you for that. I know the chief just had to step out for just a minute. I'm just going to step in until she returns. So it's been moved by Amos, seconded by Cynthia to approve that ISC funding agreement, comprehensive funding agreement 182, 183, and 184. Any questions or comments? No, did we vote on it yet? We've all done. Okay, so this would be for second reading. Okay. Moved by Amos. Cynthia is not here present right now. Seconder. Do we do that one as well? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you for that. We're going to be moving on to Jordan's principal update. And that's number 12. Who will be speaking towards the update? Would that be Deborah?
So during the well-being committee that we had a week ago, we did hear from Abigail Hill, who is our liaison person regarding Jordan's principal again. And what we've asked her to do is provide you with a briefing of the current status of Jordan's principal, which was a request from council to keep updated on it. So as you'll recall, February 10th of 2025, ISC implemented the major changes to Jordan's principal. which continually to impact First Nations children across Canada. We've requested ongoing advocacy from Six Nations of the Grand River elected council to push for both immediate and long-term help regarding these funding cutbacks that we've experienced here at Six Nations. Our senior manager of allied health services at the Department of Wellbeing, they meet with ISC on a regular basis to discuss the impacts that the funding cuts have had here specifically. And what's been happening is they've been waiting for answers on carryover funding from last year to help them carry through for this year, because up until now, basically we've had to wait for ISC to give us approval to use that money for this year's expenses, even though we know that it's been sitting there. There has been minimal funds that support dedicated positions, and I mentioned previously that we had to move from full-time employees. ISC's request is that we move full-time employees to contract employees. However, we've been hanging on to our full-time employees because of their relationship they hold with our children and our families. Also, the approval processes are painstakingly slow, and there's so much paperwork that's required in order for children to receive the services that they need. So currently, there are many First Nations communities that are continuing to call on ISC to remedy the situation that they've created. The Chiefs of Ontario has also been advocating for regional specific agreements similar to the approach that's been taken regarding the First Nations Child and Family Services Program in Ontario. The Chiefs of Ontario are planning to establish a Jordan's Principle Advisory Committee to feed into the Jordan's Principle long-term reform negotiating table. There is a draft terms of reference of this committee, and Six Nations of the Grand River will secure one to two membership spots on that committee. The Department of Wellbeing, they are a member of the Health Coordination Unit under COOP, hosted by Chiefs of Ontario, and we will be requesting more information on this committee, and we'll update this table as required. So with the growing concern with funding, we are now worried about what's going to happen as we enter into the next fiscal year, 26-27. Some of the financial implications that you see in the briefing note for unspent funds in 24-25, as well as unspent funds this year. The breakdowns are there. So basically, in terms of the 25-26 education supports, there is over 2 million that remains for service coordination and unexpended funds from 24-25. After ISC's reported reprofiling of 25-26 respite approval, 2.1 million remains for service delivery. In addition to using unspent funds from 24-25, we have approval now for interim funding of 1.2 million for service coordination salaries only. Operational dollars, including ISC approved Jordan's Principle applications and operations for child and youth health team, is 5.9. To date, these budgets have spent $5,098,031.29. This includes some of the ISC application payments and salary dollars. This does not include the reprofiled EA support amounts. So overall, no additional funding has been provided to cover ongoing operational costs for our current fiscal year, even with the approval of the carryover funding from 24-25.
We are asking again for political advocacy when it comes to Jordan's principle. We're recommending that Six Nations of the Grand River participates in that advisory committee established by COO to ensure that our program can meet the client needs and sustain future, stability. It's further recommended that Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council establish a Jordan's Principle Committee internally with relevant departments such as social services, well-being, and education to streamline and strengthen advocacy position amongst all areas, and appoint a member to sit on the Jordan's Principle Advisory Committee. To improve communications among departments and making sure that our voice is heard at that advisory table. So the recommended action, whereas the Six Nations of the Grand River Department of Wellbeing continues to be impacted by the ISC operational bulletin of Jordan's Principle as of February 2025, whereas the Jordan's Principle program will continue to produce deficits without dedicated funding, which jeopardizes children's health access for Six Nations and other on-reserve First Nations communities. Therefore, be it resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council continue to advocate for Jordan's Principle dedicated funding to cover ongoing operational costs and long-term reform that promotes a regional approach for engagement. Therefore, be it further resolved that Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council establish a Jordan's Principle Committee internally to streamline and strengthen advocacy efforts and to reduce communication barriers amongst the social services, education, and well-being departments.
I'll move, Chief.
Okay, moved by Amos, seconder. Second by Greg with comment.
Yeah, thank you, Deb. We did have the opportunity to meet with the Minister, Gull Masti, emphasizing the needs of the Jordan's Principle and deficiencies. She had mentioned that the Prime Minister was specifically interested in getting feedback with respect to the outcomes and how Jordan's Principle was actually helping our younger people and families. I know that she did mention that they were doing some type of review and it was ongoing, and that they'd be looking to actually some opinions at the ground level area in terms of getting feedback as well. So I think it's more important now to push this advocacy and get this information to her as quickly as we can. So yes, I agree. So I second that.
Cynthia, then Elaine.
Just to note, and sorry I was late getting my report in, but I did send it to council, the Indigenous Services Canada Joint Gathering, the annual one, that was on November 25th to 26th. And there are the RDG, Michael Burnt and Lisa Westaway gave a report. Did you see the report for the last fiscal? But they said in there for 24-25 there was 0 unspent, because remember every January whatever we'd always put applications in for spillage dollars, and according to him there is no spillage. And then they seemed kind of proud of themselves because they said all the other in anticipation of the budget last fall, all the departments had to do reviews and look to cutbacks of 15% in staff, whatever would amount to 15% of the budget. But they seemed kind of proud. They said because ISK only got a 2% cut. And then the question was, well, what is that cut going to be towards? And he said, well, they didn't know. They were told only that it would be a 2 versus a 15. But he was thinking maybe that some of the programs might not be renewed. But also at the joint gathering, there was a presentation specifically on Jordan's Principle, but they seem to ignore, because there's two, as you of course are aware, two huge issues. One is the backlog. It's been that way since it started. Just huge backlogs. That, and of course, the, the email notice that came last spring, those two. But they seem to, in their presentation, ignore the whole, they mentioned it, the bulletin. And that's all they did. They mentioned it, but they said the challenges were here before the bulletin was ever sent. So, you know, I mean, there's the two parts of it. So in their presentation, they only spoke about essentially the backlog and what they're doing to try to speed that up, make everything more efficient and that sort of thing. But the question then to them, well, my question to them then was, with all the backlog, why do you not, like First Nations are used to doing all kinds of assessments to determine, are you eligible, you're not eligible for whatever it was, and given that we're the most populous in the whole of Canada, why could we not just send us the money and we'll do it ourselves, right? And they said, oh, well, they just skirted answering it because, well, there is a pilot already in Ontario, and it's Independence. But our population has got to be quadruple of what that one is. So when you're doing the advocacy or something, that might, but I mean, that doesn't help with the insufficient funds, but it would certainly help with the backlog.
Elena?
This is an aside, and I'm just wondering if the well-being committee would be best in charge of putting this advocacy committee together. So we can task the committee with that.
Well-being? Sound good?
It was already on our table anyway, so yeah, we can keep going.
So it hasn't been moved.
Yep, just a question for procedure, because my understanding of the committee structure and process is that if it comes to full council, then it stays at full council unless we send it back. So if that can be put into the motion, that it goes back to well-being to form the committee. If it's okay with the mover and
Seconder, is that okay?
Okay, Greg.
Yep. Okay. So Tia's getting that put in there. So it's been moved by Amos, second by Greg. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Recommendation 12-2, to waive second reading. Moved by Amos, second by Greg. All in favor? Be opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to number 13. Motion to adjourn to in camera. Moved by Elena, second by Hazel. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Thank you for joining us today, and we want to wish you a safe and happy holiday.